My name is Renee. I'm 36 years old. And on June 9th of last year, my former in-laws sat in the third row of my daughter's elementary school auditorium and laughed at her while she walked across the stage. They laughed at a 9-year-old girl receiving an academic achievement award. They did it loudly enough for the parents around them to hear. And when I turned around from the second row to look at them, my ex-mother-in-law, Patricia Whitfield, looked me dead in the eyes and whispered to her husband, "Well, at least she got something from her mother." Certainly wasn't looks. What she didn't know was that the principal had already been informed about their behavior. And what happened next changed everything for my daughter, for me, and for the Whitfield family's carefully maintained reputation in our town. Let me go back to the beginning. I married David Whitfield when I was 24. He was 27, from a family that had been in Cartersville, a small town about an hour northwest of Atlanta, for 3 generations. His father, Roy Whitfield, owned a commercial real estate company. His mother, Patricia, ran the local chapter of a women's charitable organization and sat on the school board for 11 years. In Cartersville, the Whitfield name carried weight. People knew them. People deferred to them. And I, a girl from a working-class family in Dalton who put herself through college on student loans and waitressing tips, was never going to be good enough for their son. Patricia made that clear from the first Thanksgiving I attended. She seated me at the far end of the table, next to David's teenage cousin, and spent the entire meal talking about David's ex-girlfriend, a girl named Caroline, whose father was a partner at a law firm in Marietta. Caroline always knew how to dress for the occasion, Patricia said, looking directly at my department store blouse. David squeezed my hand under the table but said nothing. That became a pattern. David and I got married in 2015. Our daughter, Maya, was born in 2016. She was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Small and alert, with dark brown eyes that followed everything. Patricia held her once at the hospital, looked at her for a long moment, and said, "She doesn't look like a Whitfield." I was still in the hospital bed, exhausted from 22 hours of labor. I didn't respond. I just took my baby back. Maya grew up smart, not just school smart, but observant. By the time she was 4, she was reading chapter books. By 6, she was doing math 2 grade levels ahead. Her teachers consistently praised her curiosity and work ethic. I worked as an administrative coordinator at a medical clinic in town, and every evening after dinner, Maya and I would sit at the kitchen table and go through her homework together. Sometimes she'd finish in 10 minutes and then read to me from whatever book she was into that week. Those evenings were sacred to me. David, meanwhile, was drifting. He worked for his father's company but resented it. He drank more. He stayed out later. By the time Maya was 5, our marriage was mostly silence and logistics. In early 2021, he told me he wanted a divorce. He said he wasn't happy, that he felt trapped. I didn't fight it. I was tired of being the only one trying. We finalized the divorce in August 2021. I got primary custody of Maya. David got every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. The arrangement worked, mostly because David rarely exercised his full visitation. He'd cancel Wednesdays. He'd drop Maya off early on Sundays. But the real problem wasn't David. It was Patricia and Roy. After the divorce, Patricia seemed to view Maya differently. Or maybe she'd always viewed her this way, and just hid it better while David and I were married. Maya started coming home from visits to her grandparents' house with comments that made my stomach turn. She was 7 when she told me, "Grandma says I should try to smile more because my face looks too serious." She was 8 when she said, "Grandpa asked me why I don't play sports like normal kids instead of reading all the time." And she was 9, just weeks before the graduation incident, when she came home and told me quietly. Sitting on the edge of her bed, "Mom, Grandma told Aunt Laura that I'm awkward and that it's because you don't socialize me enough." I wanted to drive to Patricia's house that night. I wanted to stand on her porch and scream. Instead, I sat next to Maya and asked her how those words made her feel. She looked at me with those serious brown eyes and said, "I don't think Grandma likes me very much." That sentence broke something in me, not in a dramatic, falling apart way. In a quiet, permanent way, like a wire snapping inside a wall. You can't see it, but the light goes out. I called David the next morning. I told him what Maya had said. I told him his mother was making our daughter feel unwanted and that it needed to stop. He sighed. That long, irritated sigh I'd heard 1,000 times during our marriage. "Renee, Mom doesn't mean it like that. She's old-fashioned. She just thinks Maya should be more outgoing." "You're overreacting. David, your mother told your sister that our daughter is awkward. She's just concerned. Maya is a little quiet, that's not a crime. Neither is being quiet." "Talk to your mother." He said he would. He didn't. 2 weeks before the end of the school year, Maya's school, Cartersville Elementary, announced its annual awards ceremony. Maya had been selected to receive the principal's award for academic excellence, given to one student per grade level. Her teacher, Mrs. Delaney, called me personally to tell me. She said Maya had the highest reading comprehension scores in the entire 3rd grade and had completed an independent research project on local wildlife that the school wanted to display at the district level. I cried on the phone. Mrs. Delaney laughed softly and said, "She earned every bit of it." I told David about the ceremony. He said he'd try to come. I told him the date, June 9th, and the time, 10 in the morning. He said, "I'll see." What I didn't know was that David had told his parents, and Patricia had decided to attend. The morning of June 9th, I dressed Maya in a navy blue dress she'd picked out herself and her favorite white sneakers. She was nervous. She kept smoothing down the front of her dress and asking me if she looked okay. I knelt in front of her and told her she looked exactly like herself, and that was the best thing anyone could look like. She smiled a little. We drove to the school. The auditorium was packed. Families everywhere, balloons, a hand-painted banner that read, "Congratulations to our stars." I found seats in the 2nd row. Maya went backstage with the other award recipients. The ceremony started at 10:15. I didn't see the Whitfields come in. I didn't know they were there until the 3rd grade awards began and I heard Patricia's voice behind me. She was talking to Roy, not whispering, just talking in that carrying voice she used when she wanted people to hear without being able to accuse her of being loud. "I still don't understand why they're giving her an award," Patricia said. "She barely speaks." Roy chuckled. "Maybe it's a participation thing." My neck went hot. I kept my eyes forward. I told myself to breathe. This was Maya's day. I was not going to let them ruin it. Then Mrs. Delaney walked to the podium and began reading Maya's name and accomplishments. She talked about Maya's reading scores, her research project, her intellectual curiosity, and her kindness to other students. I watched my daughter walk across that stage, shoulders slightly hunched the way she does when she's self-conscious, and I felt my chest expand with pride. And then I heard it. Patricia let out a small, dismissive laugh, not a joyful one, a condescending one, the kind of laugh that says, "Really?" without using the word. Roy snorted beside her. And then Patricia leaned toward Roy but spoke loud enough for at least 6 people around her to hear. "Well, at least she got something from her mother. Certainly wasn't looks." I turned around. My hands were gripping the seat in front of me. Patricia met my gaze and didn't flinch. She just raised one eyebrow slightly, the way she always did when she wanted to remind me of my place. I turned back around. My vision was blurred, not from tears, but from the effort of holding everything in. My daughter was standing on that stage holding her certificate, squinting into the audience to find me, and I was going to smile at her if it was the last thing I did. So I did. I smiled and clapped and made sure she could see me, but someone else had seen what happened too. A woman sitting directly behind the Whitfields had already gotten up from her seat. I didn't notice her leave. I didn't notice her walk to the side door of the auditorium. I only found out later that she had gone directly to the principal's office. Her name was Denise Caldwell. She was a parent and also a member of the PTA. She'd heard every word Patricia said, and she told Principal Roberta Franklin exactly what had happened. Here's what I didn't know at the time. Patricia Whitfield had been a source of complaints before. During her 11 years on the school board, she had made disparaging remarks about students from lower-income families during meetings. She had pushed to cut funding for the English language learner program, calling it unnecessary accommodation. 3 teachers had filed informal complaints about her behavior during school events over the past 4 years. Principal Franklin had a file. She'd been waiting for a documented, witnessed incident involving a student. She got one. After the 3rd grade awards were finished, there was supposed to be a short break before the 4th grade ceremony. Instead, Principal Franklin walked to the microphone. She was a tall woman, mid-50s, with short gray hair and a calm, deliberate way of speaking. The auditorium was still buzzing with applause and chatter. She waited for silence, and she got it. "Before we continue," she said, her voice steady and clear through the speakers, "I want to take a moment to address something that happened in this auditorium during the last segment of our ceremony." The room went still. "This morning, a student in our school walked across this stage to receive an award she earned through hard work, discipline, and intellectual excellence. While she stood up here, proud and brave, an adult in this audience made derogatory and hurtful remarks about her appearance and her worthiness. Those remarks were heard by multiple people." I stopped breathing. "I want to be very clear," Principal Franklin continued. "This school is a place where every child is valued, every child. Regardless of their family background, their appearance, or how loudly they speak. We do not tolerate the belittling of children by adults, not in our classrooms, not in our hallways. And certainly not in this auditorium during a ceremony designed to celebrate their achievements." She paused. She looked out over the audience. I don't know if she looked directly at Patricia. I couldn't turn around. I couldn't move. "To the student who received the principal's award for academic excellence in the 3rd grade, she said, and her voice softened just slightly. "Maya Whitfield, you earned this. You deserve this. And every adult in this room should be proud to be in the same space as a young woman of your character." The auditorium erupted. Parents stood up. They clapped. Some of them turned around and looked at the Whitfields. I finally turned too. Patricia's face was white, not embarrassed white, furious white. Her lips were pressed into a thin line. Roy was staring at the floor. Neither of them moved. They left during the applause. They didn't say goodbye to Maya. They didn't say a word to me. They just walked out through the side door like ghosts. The aftermath unfolded over the following weeks. Denise Caldwell provided a written statement to the school about what she'd heard. 2 other parents came forward with their own accounts. Principal Franklin submitted a formal report to the school district, citing Patricia's comments as a violation of the district's code of conduct for school events. But the real consequence came from the community. In a town like Cartersville, reputation is currency, and Patricia had just gone bankrupt. Denise Caldwell told other PTA members. Those members told other parents. Within a week, the story had spread through every school pickup line, every soccer practice, every Sunday church gathering. Patricia Whitfield, the woman who chaired charity galas and sat on the school board, had mocked her own 9-year-old granddaughter at a school awards ceremony. In public. While the child was on stage, Patricia resigned from the school board 12 days after the ceremony. The official reason was personal matters. Everyone knew the real reason. The women's charitable organization she'd led for 8 years asked her to step back from leadership. Roy's business didn't suffer directly, but 3 families I knew personally told me they'd chosen different realtors for their property searches. David called me 2 days after the ceremony. His voice was tight. "My mother is humiliated, Renee. She can barely leave the house." "Good," I said. "That's cold." "She mocked your daughter at her school ceremony, David." In front of hundreds of people. She said Maya isn't good looking. She laughed at her. Silence. "Your mother humiliated herself," I said. "I didn't do anything." "The principal did what any principal should do, and your mother is facing the consequences of her own behavior." He hung up. That was the last real conversation David and I had about his parents. I did one more thing. I consulted with a family attorney about modifying our custody agreement to include a provision that Maya would not be left alone with Patricia or Roy during David's visitation time. My attorney drafted the motion, and David, either out of guilt or exhaustion, agreed to it without a fight. It was filed and approved in July. Maya asked me about what happened at the ceremony. She'd heard parts of the principal's speech from backstage. She didn't know the specifics. I told her in age-appropriate terms that some adults said unkind things and the principal stood up for her. She thought about that for a moment. Then she said, "Mrs. Franklin is nice." "Yes," I said, "she is." Maya still has her certificate framed on her bedroom wall. She started 4th grade in August and made the honor roll in the first quarter. She joined the school's creative writing club. She's still quiet. She's still serious. She's still exactly who she is. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure no one makes her feel like that's something to be ashamed of. I want to leave you with 3 things I learned from this experience. First, protect your children's peace with the same energy you'd use to protect their safety. Emotional harm leaves marks that don't bruise, but they last longer. If someone in your family is tearing down your child's self-worth, that person does not get unlimited access to your child. Period. Second, document everything. Every comment your child repeats. Every dismissive remark you overhear. Write it down with dates and details. You may never need it, but if you do, you'll be glad you have it. Third, sometimes justice doesn't come from a courtroom. Sometimes it comes from a principal with a microphone, a parent in the audience who refused to stay silent, and a community that chose to hold someone accountable. You don't always need a lawyer. Sometimes you just need one person willing to say, "That was wrong," out loud. If this story hit close to home, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me about a time someone stood up for your child, or for you when it mattered most. Like this video if you believe that children deserve to be celebrated, not mocked. And subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Thank you for listening. And to every quiet, serious, book-loving kid out there, you are exactly enough.